Hey everyone, today is March 19th, 2020. Now I haven't done a video in about 5 or 6 days, and since I did my last video, the world has completely lost their fucking minds. Now if you're a fan of my more reserved demeanor when I talk about numerology, this video probably won't be for you. But I'm so upset and outraged at what's going on in the world right now. And I don't have a whole lot of people to talk about this to in my personal life. Most people see what they see on the news and believe everything about it. And, they see what the World Health Organization says. They see what the news puts out on a daily basis. But no one's using their brains. We're at a very important part of time in this world. And as we're seeing, coronavirus is being used to usher in a different style of government from the bottom up, essentially. And say what you want about this disease, whether it's real, whether it's fabricated, whether it's engineered, whether it's even serious. The response to it is completely planned, it's completely staged, and we're seeing this play out in front of us. There's not going to be a whole lot of numerology in this video, but understand that master builder number has this Gematria value of 220. And this is the primary reason that the year 2020 is being used to usher in the coronavirus pandemic, summing to 220 in the alphabetic order, all under the presidency of Donald John Trump, summing to 220. And again, 22, the master builder number in numerology. In fact, the word master even summing to 22. Even the head of FEMA right now, Peter Thomas Gaynor, his name equals 220. Of course, his last name is Gaynor. Remember Gloria Gaynor, who's made videos talking about washing your hands recently. Has that song, I Will Survive. So my question is, what are we going to put up with in this country before the people start to rise up and say no? Because a simple look at the mathematics of this disease shows us that it's being completely exacerbated by the media, far, far, far beyond what is mildly reasonable. If the news decided tomorrow to start running news stories on every single person who died in a car accident, remember 30 to 40,000 people per year in the United States die in an automobile. Imagine CNN, imagine Fox News started doing an article on every single one of those people. Within days, the brain-dead idiots in this country would start looking at you like a fucking alien if you step foot in a car and start driving, because all they could think about is how dangerous it is to be driving. Imagine if CNN flooded its front page with stories about people dying of heart disease and obesity. This is a 48-year-old man who won't see his grandchildren grow up because he was too fat and died of heart disease. Overnight, you'd see people stop going to restaurants because that's how stupid this public is. And I've never been so disappointed, disgusted, and embarrassed by other people in my own society on how they're reacting to this. It's funny, 99 out of 100 people, you ask them if they trust the government, and they would tell you no. But those people who have no understanding that the government is essentially the media have no qualms, no worries about living in fear of other people. And think about where this started. Have no doubt about it, guys. COVID-19, this coronavirus scare, is the new 9/11. This represents a shift in the world that they are trying to bring about. And it's on the people now to stand up. If we don't do it within a short amount of time, this is all going to be over very quickly for us. It all started with 9/11. Remember the sentiment after September 11th and those attacks. The sentiment was that we should be fearing certain people, particularly brown people. That was the big thing. Anytime someone was on an airplane with an Arab, everyone was scared. And people had never really experienced anything like this at the time. So for the next decade, We lived with these new fears that we never had before. And then, slowly but surely, they started adding more and more onto the palette. Remember the shooting of Trayvon Martin and countless shootings of other black individuals by white police officers. The message after that became very clear that not only should brown people be feared, but people of all races should be feared if they're not your own. Black, white, Mexican, it doesn't matter. If they're not you, you should be frightened. And then a couple years after the Trayvon Martin incident, actually the same year, later that year, we had the Sandy Hook shooting, where the media constantly showed images of this crazy, bizarre, almost CGI-looking face at us. And the message there was very clear. Fear crazy-looking people. So we've now feared all the races except for our own. Well, now, as a white person anyway, here's someone who's my own race who looks completely crazy. Now we got to fear them. And then over the next couple years, the Me Too movement grabbed a foothold. And now all of these normal-looking people, Matt Lauer, Kevin Spacey, for instance, just to name a couple of them, suddenly started crawling out of the woodwork, turning out to be sexual predators. And the message here was clear. Fear normal-looking people. So over the course of less than 20 years, we went from fearing certain people who don't speak our language to fearing people who look very much like us. And now here comes the coronavirus, this deadly disease, sucking the wind out of almost every old person it comes across. And it's not just whether or not we're infected. The message is very clear. If you're infected, that doesn't matter. Who else can you infect? So now the message has transitioned to, we need to fear everybody. No one can be trusted. No one should be seen walking in your door. Events of more than 10 people being banned by the federal government, by state governments. Think about this. If you had told me this was going to happen a month ago, I would have thought you were off your rocker. I would have thought this was way too fast. And trust me when I say that this is a social experiment, first and foremost. This is not about pumping a disease into the public and killing as many people off as they can. What we're witnessing now is a stage, a very early stage of this. And what they're doing, number one, is gauging our responses, which is part of the reason I'm putting this video out here today. There's not going to be much numerology here. This is a very pissed off American citizen who, like I said, has never been more embarrassed by the people around me in my life and their reaction to this. Hang on, 1 second here. All right. So how far are they going to push this? And we're going to see they're going to keep pushing this further and further and further just to see how much we're going to put up with. This is going to come to us having to go on the streets eventually at some point. Just look at the news today. And of course, before you click on it that it's just going to be awful, awful, more disastrous news. And of course, as testing increases, known U.S. cases soar. Now remember, like I said, this is first and foremost a psychological operation. And if you look at the numbers involved with those infected, it's very plain to see that this is not that much worse than in regular flu. In fact, since COVID-19 became a thing in the United States, somewhere between 10 and 30 times as many people have died from influenza than COVID-19. And of course, a lot of people are saying, well, it's the spread that we're worried about. Remember, coronavirus is a cold. COVID-19 is a new strain of this cold. And as far as I'm aware, no one's ever been able to stop the spread of a cold throughout the population of the world. So if we're going to live in fear of this disease and completely shut down our society, and the people are willing to do it, that's the saddest part. People more than happy to lock themselves inside their homes at government direction. So they tell us at first, we should do a week, we should do 7 days. Then they come out and say, well, maybe we should make it 14 days. President Trump initially suggesting this could last through April. Now they're saying there's no reason this might last. Look at this, 18 months or longer, 18 months. 1 to 2 weeks of shutting down the country is more than enough to bash the economy. 18 months is a complete government takeover. So we as the people now have to make a decision at how much do we want the government to take over our lives, because they're going to try and take over the food chain, all of the medicine, everything that keeps people alive. This is a test run to see what we can all survive without. Because understand, over the last 10, 15 years, automation has taken over in society. In fact, at my job, the job I took over is now highly automated because I understand programming. Very basic things that I was able to do to cut hours off my day. And again, make no mistake about it, that's a very, very big part of this entire thing. But they're also gauging the response, again, because they want to see what people are willing to put up with. You sequester people in their homes for a week, they start to get used to it. Then you tell them 2 to 3 weeks, and they think, well, if the government says that this is the right thing to do, then I guess this is what I should be doing. And again, this is all out of fear. People living in their reptilian brains. And what I've observed is that you're starting to see a real separation of consciousness between those who buy into the system, who are living in fear and believe most things they're told on the news, and the people who understand what's really going on. As me on this channel and my work, over 3 years exposing the federal government, trying to explain to people that the lies are way, way deeper than they could ever wrap their head around. And now you're seeing this in practice. Not one single media outlet is questioning the insanity of the response to this disease, which in and of itself should be proof of the conspiracy of these media companies essentially working together to give the people of this country false news. And understand, outlets like this, CNN, Fox News, the cable, the television, all of this stuff is just a channel for rich, wealthy people to talk to poor people. That's the only reason those things exist. And messages countering that greater narrative are always going to be suppressed. YouTube looked like a really great place to spread this information for a long time, but 2018, 2019, we saw censorship take hold, and now I've been sequestered to a corner of the internet to make these nonstop rants, as I'm doing today. So what I'm calling for is a little bit more action on the part of the people. It's one thing for us to suggest to our loved ones that, maybe there's a conspiracy behind it, but now we're actually living in it. We're seeing the results of this planning for years. So I want to talk about the World Health Organization a little bit. Established in 1948, right after World War II, right after the world government really started to take hold. And of course, very settling logo, the snake around the stick, right? The serpent. And think about another. You have the NASA logo with the serpent tongue. And you can say this is a joke, but I think the symbolism here is quite clear. Well, consider this. We know NASA lies to us. They lied to us about going to the moon and a whole slate of other things. NASA, with the serpent tongue in the logo, has Gematria of 666, the number of the beast, in the simple reverse alphabetic order, one of the most significant ciphers in the language of Gematria. Well, now we're dealing with the World Health Organization, another company that uses the serpent in their symbolism, the serpent representing Satan, the great deception, the lying beast. Check out the Gematria of World Health Organization. Oh, wait a minute. It doesn't sum to 666, does it? Notice these two primary Gematria ciphers, the alphabetic order 1 through 26, and then Jewish Gematria, which is based in the Latin alphabetic order, where more modern characters are placed at the end. Well, check out 275. What happens when you write out 666? Oh, damn, you get 275. Well, what about 666? Hot damn, you get 2083. That's the same Gematria as World Health Organization. Now remember, this disease was declared a pandemic on March 11th of 2020. Well, if you go back exactly 666 days before coronavirus was declared a global pandemic. You get this Clade X mock pandemic exercise, a massive large-scale exercise which basically simulates the coronavirus outbreak almost identically to how we've seen it in the real-life news. The outbreak spreading over several months, and then ultimately in this exercise they discover that it's a bioweapon. And maybe in real life they'll say that it's a bioweapon, which would lead us to some sort of war with China, which is being hinted at in the news. So why should we listen to any organization that's coded so heavily with the number 666 and take their recommendations on how to live our lives, telling us to fear every other individual in our goddamn lives? Are you fucking kidding me? I was on the phone yesterday trying to pay a bill, and for some reason I was having phone problems in my house, which has never happened before. I'm talking to someone on a landline, and now my phone's cutting out. So I said, hey, would this be easier? You know, I live 2 miles away. Would it just be easier if I came in and dropped off a check? And the person said, oh, I don't know if that's a good idea. And I was like, I'm not that angry about having to pay this debt, you know, kind of laughing. And she's like, well, I don't know. With social distancing, you know, that might not be a good idea. And I was like, are you serious? Like, you think an interaction with a random person on the phone could lead to your death? Is that what you're hinting at? And I said, I don't buy into any of that shit. I mean, if, you know, for someone who works at a debt collection agency, it shouldn't be a surprise to me that they buy into media propaganda like that, living in base reptilian consciousness. But I've been so freaking disgusted at the response I've seen from people on the street. Yesterday, I went to go get some food and learned that our governor decided that all dine-in establishments needed to be closed. Because remember, this is all about hurting the little guy. You know, big businesses are going to be able to survive this lockdown, especially ones that the government supports. But the mom and pop shops that need to survive, you know, they either have to close down or stay open and see basically nobody enter their stores. So anyway, I go through the drive-thru and, you know, they got gloves. She doesn't want to touch my hand. And I was like, you guys are closed down in there, huh? I said, the world is losing their minds. And she kind of, you know, looked at me and kind of gave like a half giggle. And then when she came back with my receipt, I was like, don't worry. You guys will all be all right. Everything will be fine. And I got looked at like I was a damn alien. Like I was the first person in her life that could possibly suggest that she might not die and that everyone around her might not rot because of this disease. So the world has completely lost it, and the worst part about it is how willingly everyone is going along with it. It's like I said, most people will tell you they don't trust the government without realizing how governmental these agencies are. So I'm telling you guys, we're at a critical mass right now. You know, me personally, I don't have a family of my own, and I'm willing to take risks, right? Which is part of the reason I have a channel like this. Even speaking about it scares a lot of people, and I'm long over that fear. I have a deep feeling that this is all part of the reason I'm here, is to talk about this and help spread the truth about what's really going on. And if it comes down to it and there turns out to be this ban where we're not allowed to go outside, hell, I could end up shot dead outside on the street. And that would be fine with me. I would much rather that go out as a martyr for this cause than to live my whole life like this for the next 18 months, dealing with no social interactions, unable to go out, unable to enjoy crowds of people, going to shows, one of my favorite things to do, meeting new people, meeting new women. All of a sudden, they're telling us we can't do that. That we don't have the ability to exercise free market. We have to sequester ourselves into our homes because any human being that we come across could have the power to kill us, and they might not even know it. We might not even know it. No one could know it. It's the ultimate play of fear. And they're using COVID-19 to usher this all in. It's sick, it's gross, it's totalitarian, draconian, whatever word you can think of, that's what we're experiencing. And if you're feeling iffy about whether or not maybe you should start to say something or stand up for yourself, now's the fucking time. All right. I really had to get this out of my system because it's just driving me absolutely up the wall. I mean, I've done very few Gematria videos recently, very few posts because, when the news is in your face this much about one thing, it's almost impossible to maintain positive energy throughout the day like I like to do. And I realized that venting about this, talking to other people about it. I mean, we got 100 people in the live chat, so thanks to everybody who jumped in. But this definitely is very therapeutic for me, and I hope for some of you it's just therapeutic listening to it. I don't know, but it's definitely some insanity going on. I've been glancing at the chat here throughout the video, and I'm not gonna. There's a lot going on here, but I did want to address the 5G conspiracy. Now, again, this is the part of my videos where I address people and kind of give a forewarning that I'm no expert, okay? You got to do your own research on these things. Don't listen to me just because I happen to be good at numbers and, developed a calculator. That being said, I don't necessarily buy that 5G is causing the symptoms of coronavirus. To me, that's a scare tactic. Now, I don't think 5G is good. I think it's very bad. I think we're living in an electromagnetic soup, and if you currently aren't doing anything to defend yourself against electromagnetic frequencies, you're already behind the curve. For me, for instance, I have a necklace, I have pyramids, I get good sleep. Throughout the day, I don't feel drained. But with 5G, that's going to amp up heavily, and that's just the least of the worries. There's the concern that 5G literally damages your blood cells to the point where you can't get oxygen to your body, which is alarmingly enough some of the symptoms of coronavirus. And maybe there's a mixture of truths. Maybe coronavirus is real to an extent, but they're also going to be using this 5G in a way as well. I don't know. My statement would be stay active in your communities and try and understand what's going on. There's rumors going around that the shutdowns of the schools are being used to usher in the construction companies to install 5Gs in some of these areas. And I don't know if that's true. Again, do your own research. I'm just trying to point you in the right direction as far as what you can do on a local level to try and impact some sort of change. Because, this world government is very adaptive. And, perhaps a long time ago their plan was to take all the guns away, but then they saw a lot of backlash. People saying, people calling the government, telling them, hey, if you try to take our guns, we're going to do something about it. And, I believe that if people stand up and make a strong enough stance that we can reverse some of this damage that's been done. But it's going to take a lot of people, it's going to take a lot of nerve, and it's going to take a lot of knowledge and information. Because, again, it's these world government organizations stamping themselves with the number 666, the number of the beast, going through the master builder number, master 22, master builder number 220, using the year 2020 to usher in their idea of a new world order. Check out the Gematria, too. Also notice the 293 master builder number. Coronavirus pandemic, 220 like the year 2020. Declared national emergency in the United States on a date that leaves 293 days in the year. And it was declared a global pandemic on the date 11/3, the 11th of March. Kobe Bryant, 11/3, dying at the age 41 years, 157 days. All as a precursor to this large world government takeover that we're seeing. So again, the key is knowledge and information and speaking up. If you're one of those people who always looks at truth or content and simply digests it, never forwarding it on to other people or expanding it on yourself, you're being tasked with a lot. And I understand that. But if we don't try, then we're going to end up in this world where we're all sequestered, we're all apart from one another, and we're all going to lose the human experience if this continues. And I don't know, a lot of people maybe that are watching this haven't had all the proper human experiences that they should. Me, as a 34-year-old man, I'm lucky. I've had pretty much all of them. But this is what we have to reclaim. We have to reclaim our humanity at some point and realize that, yes, occasionally things are going to threaten to kill us. Diseases, that's real. That happens. That's why we have medical establishments in place. But we don't need a small group of one world government telling us how to live our lives, how many people we can surround ourselves with, and what times of day we can leave the fucking house. Also, I want to bring attention to the fact that this is all happening on the West Coast, primarily the cities of Seattle and San Francisco, right? And think about how much out of left field this came from San Francisco. Now, for years, if you come to my Discord, you go to my website, gematrinator.com, you look at the miscellaneous up top, you'll see a drop-down link to my Discord. And in that Discord, you'll see that for years, we've been talking about the next massive 9/11 false flag occurring in Seattle or San Francisco, or maybe both. Combined attacks is what we were worried about. And I've been a long proponent saying we're not going to see a large terror attack in these cities because when that happens, people are going to start looking for truth. And when people start looking for truth, they find truth, and they realize that they're being lied to. And it turns out all of us were right. This massive operation is occurring in Seattle. It is occurring in San Francisco, but it's not a terror attack. It's a disease, which is even scarier for someone like us who realize how this is being used to terrify people. And it's a brand new thing that people have never had to really deal with before. And why San Francisco, right? I mean, we barely heard anything about cases in San Francisco, and then all of a sudden, that city was under martial law. They were told that they couldn't leave their houses except for essential needs. Well, it just so happens that San Francisco has the highest concentration of gay and lesbian in the entire nation, and Seattle isn't that far behind. So does the whole globo-homo agenda make a little bit more sense now? This whole alphabet community thing, LGBTQ, ABC, ZXB, whatever. They've been pushing this for years, and now you kind of see why, right? Because they're introducing martial laws in the city where that mindset has taken foothold the strongest. Those are the cities that are least likely to resist. So, of course, they're always going to spread that, more free love, more homosexuality, because they understand that the more predisposed to that mindset people are, the less likely they are to resist when they try to step in and take over. You know, they don't want people like me shouting on the street corners, trying to inform people of what's happening. So thanks to everybody who's jumping in live this morning, trying to inject a little bit of life back into the truth community, back into those people who are struggling. Because, hey, if you're in a state of mind right now where you're really you're having difficulty, you're feeling helpless, bro, I am with you right there. I've never felt so fucking helpless before, trying to get through to people who are just living in this bubble, who have no comprehensive ability to understand. But through these actions in government, we're truly seeing who the terrorists were. You know what's funny? I just want to point this out. I actually turned on the local radio this morning, and for some reason I was looking for a boost in mood, and all it would have taken for that was for me not to hear anything about coronavirus for like a minute, right? But of course I turned the radio on, and that is what they're talking about. And what do they say? What did they tell us? The number of cases had jumped to 113. That was the big news on the radio this morning. 113 cases. Not honest, 113. Dishonest, 113. Perjury, 113. Infidelity, 113. I haven't done this in a long time, but holy crap, there's so many things not true. 113. This is the number of deception. And if you have an eye for it, you'll see it everywhere. This is also, of course, the factors of 33, 11 times 3. Corona equals 33. Remember, we're being told that Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson have coronavirus. Tom equals 33. Rita equals 33. And has there been any bigger joke in the media than Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson? And by the way, Tom Hanks, one creepy, sick-ass motherfucker. You ever look at this guy's Twitter account and see all the shit he tweets, suggesting, with his making jokes with pedophilia undertones? This is a sick motherfucker, and I hope he does. Never mind. Look, he and his wife Rita are completely lying about the fact they have coronavirus, and they're tweeting about their quarantine every day, basically mocking the public who is now voluntarily quarantining itself. And I did a video on this talking about how Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson are the perfect couple. Hanks and Wilson equal 1303, just like coronavirus. The 13th of March is when they was declared a national emergency. Their birthdays separated by 15 weeks and 5 days. Both of them born in the year 56. Hanks and Wilson equal 56. And then it turns out there's an even deeper part of this riddle. See this recent tweet from Tom Hanks where he channels Mr. Rogers in this ridiculous tweet? Hope you all have a beautiful day. You'll always find people helping, trying to spread this false positivity, this helpless positivity, this new style of positivity that the public is seeing. And I thought to myself, oh yeah, he recently starred as Mr. Rogers in a movie. I said this must be by the numbers too, right? It has to be. Well, first of all, consider the character he plays in the movie, Fred Rogers. Look at this, 155, 56, the same as coronavirus, 155 and 56. And look at the gematria of the movie, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. 155 and 506, just like coronavirus. Do you see how the mass mainstream media is playing a trick on us? Using these fucking piece of shit low-life actors, these millionaires who are happily lying to the public that they're entertaining. You see how they're using them to spread their fucking lies? These pieces of fucking shit. And now you have a nation full of happy slaves. People are just more than happy to stay in home. Please don't let any other people come to my house. I'm going to catch up on my Netflix shows. I'm going to do all my shopping on Amazon. I'm going to get so many things done. Holy shit. It couldn't be a sadder state of affairs these days. It really couldn't. And I feel like I should have sounded more alarm bells, but holy shit, guys. So I'm pissed the fuck off. I hope all of you are pissed the fuck off because it's going to take a lot of anger. It's going to take a lot of rage to turn this thing around because that's really what's lacking in this country is just there's this lack of energy, this misunderstanding of what life should be, what it truly is. And part of my hope through the last 3 years is that my work in numerology, explaining to you the organic side of this code, shows you what reality really is, which is that we are simply infinite beings who are inhabiting a body for a certain period of time. Think of it as getting off of a plane, jumping in a rental car. You got your rental car for the weekend. That's kind of what's going on with our bodies. And all of us are here for a particular reason. I think some of us, well, especially the people who are in watching a video like this, most of us have some sort of higher purpose that we understand. We're trying to get in connection with. We're trying to get in touch with. And no one wants us to get in touch with that less than this satanic occult running world government. Because they understand what reality is. They understand what they truly are. However, they're in opposition to it. They're against it, against the Creator, it seems. And there are times where I wonder, where I question the Creator myself. I'm a human being. I look around and question, why is this what was created? Why is this the world we were born into? Why couldn't we just have happy people around us who are looking to share life experiences with us as well? And instead we get these fucking liars who get their stones off on exercising their power to the public. And this is just, like I said, the way I see it is that we all chose to come down here for a reason. And I say down here because there's no way this is above heaven by any means. I mean, this life that we're kind of living has elements of a hell to it, no doubt. But as infinite beings, when you're in that state of existence, there's no real opposition. There's pure bliss, there's pure freedom. We've seen what heaven is described as to us. And I don't know about you, but when I was a kid and I was told that we go to heaven for eternity, it actually terrified me because my young brain was just starting to be able to wrap my head around the concept of infinity. And I couldn't do it. It was horrifying. I was like, we're just going to be in this one existence, this one place forever and ever and ever? That sounds terrible. Well, if there's some truth to infinity and the fact that, that state of existence is real, wouldn't it stand to reason that eventually we would kind of fall out of touch with how beautiful that reality is? We would want to experience a little bit of evil again and then go back to that state of existence where everything was so peaceful and wonderful. So that's how I see our existence in this world a little bit. And I get this is more philosophical than I usually get into with these videos, but I mean, what's going on, right? I mean, this world is so far out there. The people in it are so far gone. I feel like, again, that the separation of consciousness has never been so evident between people who buy into the system and people who don't. And for anyone who's really, truly struggling, and, for me, I used to struggle with depression very powerfully in my mid to late 20s, even before that. And it's tried creeping its its ugly head here in my mid-30s, no doubt about it. And it's never been tested recently as it has with this whole pandemic crap. So I'm just trying to look at this from a logical perspective and think, why is it this way? And again, my best reasoning is that eventually, through an eternity of blissful happiness, we have to be reminded of how great that is. And, we maybe have to dabble in this evil, spiritual fucking prison to understand, how bad it could be. And certainly we're seeing that. But it doesn't need to stay that bad. And that's another thing I want to get across, too, before I sign off here. And I really do have to sign off soon. But this whole idea that if we just all close our eyes and picture going to a nicer reality, that we'll get to that reality. God damn, would you people shut the fuck up about that? People got to have to do something at some point. We got to speak up. We got to state our minds. Thinking our way out of this is not going to work. Yes, it starts with thought. You have to put yourself in that mindset. You have to give yourself a powerful understanding of what reality is, what powers we really have. And then that will, in turn, correct the actions you begin taking in the real world. So eventually, action's going to be necessary. We're not going to be able to think our way out of this. And that sounds scary, but again, what's the alternative? Living in our fucking house for the rest of our lives, scared of a goddamn cold? Fuck that. Fuck that shit. So I hope everybody's as ready for a fight as I am, man, because like I said, for those of you who are in my position, it's a lot to ask. I understand that, and I don't expect everybody to do it, but, take a stance. Be someone who is willing to take a risk. Be like me. Like I said, they start asking us to stay in our homes during the day or some shit. I'm going to be out on the street, and I'm going to get in trouble for it, but that's the, someone's going to have to step up and do that. We're going to need heroes at some point, right? Okay, guys, that's going to do it for now. Thanks again for everyone making this a successful early morning live stream. I understand a lot of you guys are probably home from work. Me, I've been blessed to be able to work from home for the last couple years now, primarily. But it's strange, now that they told us the building is closed and that we can't go into work, now suddenly I don't want to work from home anymore. It's funny how that works. It's like my spirit is so antagonistic that I'm always trying to go against the curve. But, I've been trying to temper that over the past few days, trying to temper reality against my belief system and the belief system of those who surround me. And I just thought today was the right time to make this video and really pound it into people's head what is really going on here. Because, there's two different internets right now. There's the Google internet, and then there's the actual internet. And the actual internet's pretty split. A lot of people realize what this is. This is a severe government takeover. And they're trying to start from scratch. And I think either way, we're going to end up starting from scratch. It's just a matter of whose world we want to live in. Our own, a world for the people, or a world for the rich, wealthy elite who are the ones trying to convince us that this coronavirus pandemic is the be-all, end-all of human life. All right, guys. Peace, love, God bless. No, but seriously, take care of yourselves. I'm not telling you to go touch everybody that you see, but just, live your normal, safe life like you should. Geez, wash your hands. Don't give other guys high fives and then lick your fingers. Like, these are things that, you should always be doing to begin with. Anyway. All right, guys, seriously. Peace, love, God bless. Stay strong out there. The power of Christ compels you. All right. That'll do it. See ya.